The sterile hum of the abandoned data center in downtown Detroit was shattered by a deafening, inhuman shriek, not from a faulty server, but from the very heart of the network itself. David, alone in the vast, echoing facility, watched in terror as the monitors on his desk flickered, each displaying a distorted, malevolent face, whispering a forgotten language of pain. The cold metal of the server rack behind him felt impossibly hot, vibrating with a sentient malice that promised to consume him whole. David shivered, pulling his thin jacket tighter, though the server room itself maintained a clinical, sterile cold. It was his solo night shift at the Innovate Detroit data center, a sprawling, imposing structure carved out of a derelict auto plant in the city's revitalized downtown. Outside, a persistent, chilling rain fell, a monotonous patter against the industrial-grade roof, echoing the quiet hum of thousands of servers. The building, though modern inside, still carried the ghost of its past, a faint scent of oil and rust clinging to the air, a reminder of the forgotten labor that once filled its cavernous spaces. He was alone, tasked with routine maintenance and monitoring, a job that usually meant endless hours of quiet boredom. Tonight, however, the silence felt different, heavier, punctuated by strange rhythmic clicks from the deeper server racks, sounds that didn't quite align with the usual operational noise. He checked his watch. It was past midnight. The city, usually a vibrant hum of activity, felt eerily quiet beyond the building's thick walls. The vastness of the server farm, with its endless rows of blinking lights, usually felt comforting, a testament to human ingenuity. Tonight, it felt like an endless, watchful maze. He typed commands onto his console, his fingers moving with practiced ease, but a growing unease began to prickle at the back of his neck. The data center had been built quickly, on a budget, over a site with a shadowed history, a place where progress had been abandoned and lives had once been broken. The rhythmic clicking intensified, no longer isolated, but spreading through the server racks like an insidious disease. David adjusted his headphones, attempting to pinpoint the source, but it seemed to emanate from everywhere at once, a polyrhythmic percussion of metal and unseen forces. He dismissed it as electrical interference, perhaps a grounding issue, but the sound was too deliberate, too organized. Then, the first system anomaly appeared. A critical firewall logged a series of impossible intrusion attempts, not from external IPs, but from within the internal network itself, from servers that were supposed to be isolated. His heart quickened. He knew these systems intimately. Such a breach was unprecedented. He launched diagnostic scans, but the programs ran sluggishly, their progress bars crawling, then freezing entirely. The temperature in the server room, usually meticulously regulated, began to fluctuate wildly, pockets of icy cold appearing suddenly, then dissipating, only to reappear moments later. He swore under his breath, attributing it to a failing HVAC unit. But the cold was too specific, too localized to specific server racks, especially those deeper within the maze. He felt a chilling draft across his face, despite the closed doors and sealed environment. He started to feel a profound sense of claustrophobia, as if the sterile walls were closing in, the hum of the machines transforming into a low, oppressive drone. The system anomalies escalated from isolated incidents to a full-blown cascade. Alerts screamed across his monitoring screens, database corruption, memory overflows, phantom user logins from non-existent accounts. David frantically typed commands, trying to regain control, but the network seemed to fight back. His commands met with frustrating delays and error messages. He watched in disbelief as lines of code, not his own, began to appear on his console, scrolling rapidly, a stream of incomprehensible glyphs that seemed to pulse with a faint internal light. He felt a tremor under his feet, not from outside, but from the very floor of the server room. It was a subtle vibration, a deep, resonant hum that thrummed through the concrete, seeming to emanate from the core of the building itself. The cooling fans on the server racks, usually a steady roar, began to spin erratically, their pitches rising and falling like a symphony of distorted sighs. He saw fleeting reflections in the polished surfaces of the server doors, not his own, but distorted, elongated shadows that moved with unnervable speed, vanishing the moment he turned his head directly. He was no longer just dealing with a system malfunction. He was contending with something sentient, something malevolent, residing within the very fabric of the data center. The air grew heavy with a metallic, ozone-like scent, a smell he couldn't place, but which felt innately wrong, a precursor to something catastrophic. A blood-curdling shriek, distorted and inhuman, tore through the quiet hum of the server room, echoing off the metal racks, rattling David's teeth. It was not a sound he recognized, not from machinery, not from any creature he knew. It was a sound of pure agony, laced with a chilling electrical resonance, seeming to emanate from the very heart of the network. He jumped, his chair scraping loudly, his hands flying to his ears, but the sound burrowed deep into his skull. The monitors on his desk, usually displaying his control panel, flickered wildly, each screen briefly displaying a distorted, malevolent face, its features shifting, screaming silently, before reverting to static. He stared, paralyzed by a terror that went beyond logic. He knew those faces, vaguely. They were composite images of people who had once worked in the auto plant, their faces harvested from old blueprints and company records, now twisted into expressions of pure despair. The cold metal of the server rack directly behind him, usually cool to the touch, felt impossibly hot, vibrating with a palpable, sentient malice that seemed to promise to consume him whole. He snatched his hand back, his fingers tingling with residual heat. He felt a profound sense of dread, as if the building itself was waking up, and it was not happy. The air became thick with a palpable tension, charged with an unseen energy, making the hairs on his arms stand on end. The heat from the server racks intensified, radiating outwards, transforming the sterile cold of the room into a stifling, oppressive heat that clung to his skin. David felt a growing sense of panic, his mind racing, trying to find a rational explanation for the impossible events. The distorted faces on his monitors solidified, no longer fleeting images, but fixed, screaming visages, their digital eyes staring directly at him. The garbled code scrolling across his secondary screen now pulsed with a sickening rhythm, and he could almost make out patterns, grotesque symbols that shifted and writhed, resembling ancient, tortured glyphs. A new sound emerged from the network, a low, guttural chanting, not in any language he knew, but imbued with a profound sense of ancient pain and endless suffering. It seemed to come from the very metal of the servers, resonating deep within the structure. He felt a sudden, sharp pain in his temples, as if tendrils of pure information, raw data, were forcibly entering his mind, flooding it with images of rusted machinery, shadowed figures toiling in suffocating heat, and the final, despairing cries of those long forgotten within these walls. The data center, once a symbol of innovation, now felt like a living tomb, its past rising, fueled by the very technology designed to erase it. The rain outside, which had been a constant, now ceased abruptly, replaced by an unnerving absolute silence that amplified the internal horrors. David's attempts to shut down the compromised systems were met with an invisible, formidable resistance. His commands were rejected, overridden, or simply vanished into the digital ether. He was locked out, a prisoner in his own control room. The chanting from the servers grew louder, a cacophony of spectral voices, each one layered over the last, building into a frenzied, maddening crescendo. The monitors on his desk, still displaying the screaming faces, began to glow with an unnerving, sickly green light, casting distorted shadows that danced on the walls around him, twisting into grotesque, fleeting shapes. He grabbed his emergency access card, his hand trembling, trying to reach the main server room, to manually cut power, to sever the malevolent connection. But the card reader malfunctioned, its light stubbornly refusing to acknowledge his presence, its digital display frozen on a single, mocking error message. He hammered on the door, but it remained sealed. The heavy, blast-proof steel an impenetrable barrier. He tried his phone, but it was dead, the screen black. The power in the rest of the facility, which had been stable, now began to fluctuate wildly, lights flickering in distant corridors, the vast, empty spaces outside his control room plunging into deeper, more terrifying darkness. He was isolated, cut off, trapped in a technological nightmare where the very machines had turned against him, their collective intelligence now dominated by something ancient and unspeakable. The rhythmic pounding began again, not from the servers, but from beneath the floor, a deep, resonating thud that vibrated up through his feet, threatening to shatter the concrete. The pounding from beneath the floor intensified, a relentless, earth-shattering rhythm that vibrated through David's very bones, shaking the entire control room. The screens around him exploded in a shower of sparks, plunging the room into absolute darkness, broken only by the eerie, sickly green light that now emanated from the server racks themselves, pulsing with a life of their own. The air filled with the coppery scent of ozone and something else, something metallic and acrid like burnt flesh. He cried out, a raw, desperate sound, as the door to the main server room, previously sealed, suddenly slid open with a guttural hiss, revealing an abyssal darkness beyond, illuminated only by the same malevolent green glow that pulsed from within. The chanting reached a fever pitch, a deafening chorus of tormented digital voices, each one screaming his name, ripping through his sanity. He saw them then, not just reflections, but actual shadowy figures, spectral forms coalescing between the server racks, their eyes burning with that same green, malevolent light. They were the forgotten workers, the tormented souls of the old auto plant, now manifested, their pain digitized, weaponized. A sudden, intense pressure enveloped him, pressing down, crushing him, as if the entire weight of the building's tragic past was bearing down upon him. He fell to his knees, his mind assaulted by a deluge of fragmented memories, of searing heat and agonizing labor, of despair and ultimate betrayal. The green light intensified, consuming the room, the shadowy figures closing in, their digital screams filling his head, tearing him apart from the inside. David's last conscious thought was of the silence that had replaced the rain outside, a chilling, expectant quiet, as the data center, now fully awakened, claimed its newest inhabitant, forever echoing with the silent digital torment of its past.